Hi, this is Peter Godinez, your host of Your Pivot Journey. On today's program, we have Steve Yoneda, who is a Hall of Fame athletic trainer from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Steve put in 30 years of serving coaches and athletes during that time frame. In this interview, Steve shares some of the wisdom that he gained over the 30 years in his interaction and experience with students, athletes, and coaches. If you like this program and this interview, please subscribe on the button below. This is Peter Godinez. I got Steve Yoneda here, and I'm excited. There's been a lot of planning and a lot of effort. Steve, you're the star in this one, so thank you for taking the time to interview with us and share with the audience who I know are just dying to hear your stories and what you have to say.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do here with this initial Zoom meeting on my part.
What were some of the events you experienced as an athletic trainer that you personally found inspiring?
It was pretty exciting. The first experience was hosting the Division II National Wrestling Tournament at Cal Poly, and it ended up being the first time the host team has ever won the event. And if you remember what the old Mott Gym looked like in the past, that place was packed. And all the visiting teams were on the other guy's side. And the home team, we had a pretty partisan crowd. And we had, I think, 4 or 5 national champions off that team. And it was all in all just very, very exciting to be part of that for the entire weekend. And then being at the national championship track meets, the ones that I attended, was just watching the men's team first win, and then the men's and women's teams win, were pretty exciting in itself. And then another one was a 4 overtime basketball game we played when we were just beginning in Division I against Southern Utah, again at home. It was 4 overtimes, and there was a guy on our team named Ben Larson, who was a guard. He played all 55 minutes of the overtime, 60 minutes, whatever it is. 5 times 4, 20, 60 minutes. So he played a total of a game and a half of basketball without resting. Besides that, the Division II national football game that was on about 80% of the nation. I was getting it on ABC. We won that, and that was pretty exciting. Yeah, the other team went in there a little bit cocky, and they went in to stop the run because Lewis Jackson had all those yards, and we actually beat them in the air and with special teams. It was pretty much the Robbie Martin show. That show got him, that game there got him drafted, I think.
What is the elements of all these memories, all this history that to this day gives us inspiration, gives us goosebumps, makes us feel good? Can you wrap your arms around why this is so fascinating?
I think part of it is the amount of support the current athletes get from the alumni when they have a homecoming, when you have reunions, things like that, where they see the camaraderie among all of the alumni that have come before them, returning to give the same amount of support that they got from their previous alumni. So it's a kind of a hand-me-down thing.
Who are some of the people in those equations that kind of stuck out on your mind of examples of being inspirational, motivation, and things we can actually use today in the year 2020 and beyond?
Early, when I first got there as an undergraduate student, Joe Harper was hired as the football coach. And he brought in some transfer students that were just tough as nails, and it contributed to the toughening of the people that were holdovers from the previous coach. But these guys, talk about playing hurt, these guys played injured, and they were just tough as nails, and that toughness trickled down to the rest of the team. And if you didn't fall into line with the tough guys, and you weren't socially ostracized, but they didn't like you, and they let you know it. And I think that has carried on throughout Coach Harper's regime, and beyond. Just different ways to get really tough guys to play, and then get the rest of the team to follow. And it was in all the sports like that. The ones that were successful always had that really tough athlete in the forefront that would bring the rest of the team with them. And it didn't matter whether it was men's or women's. If you look back, there was always that group of guys. In your era, some of those guys, you want them behind you in a street fight, And if it was raining, hey, let's run, man. Let's have the meet. The wind's blowing, let's have the meet. Too cold, bundle up a little bit, warm up longer, and let's have the meet. And there was that entire team was like that. The ones that were great, that became great, were all like that on the men's and women's side.
I got to ask the question, were there people, Steve, during that time frame you looked up to and were your mentors?
Well, some of the coaches and the administrators were pretty good role models. You want to thank the people that helped hire you and formed your attitude towards college and intercollegiate athletics.
What were the qualities of these people? What was their behavior? What was something they did that made them more role models than others?
I think the main thing was not get too high over high things and not get too low over low things. And in conjunction with that, don't get too upset at the things that upset you. Just kind of take that in stride and take a couple deep breaths and say, that's going to change, or, yeah, I was wrong in doing that, or I'm going to show them I was right in doing that. One of those two things, Other than that, some of those coaches were good at seeing both sides of the story, both sides of situations, positives and negatives, and trying to come out somewhere in between that's going to benefit the athlete and the school.
What were some of the traits and abilities that you saw in athletes that made a huge difference in what they did?
If you look at all those things that I just discussed, you could see that in some of the athletes, even as they're 19 and 20 years old, and you kind of knew that they were going to be successful. And some of the ones surprised you. The ones you didn't think were going to do much ended up being very, very successful.
What were some of the things that outside of athletics, meaning it's one thing to come in to Cal Poly and have natural ability, run fast, be strong, have skill. But there were other human factors, at least I saw, but I'd sure like to get your take on some of those non-athletic traits that really made the difference in what was going on at the time.
Just some people know how to carry on a conversation with adults. There was a lot of those. I think you have to be like that to make it in Cal Poly, because you got to do a lot of presentation in class. And some of the things that they talked about, the subject matter that would come up on a day-to-day basis. were a little bit more intellectual in some than others. You can tell that they had a little more, a broader background of seeing things, observing things, and then translating them to words.
You know, when you go to a school, and I know everybody who attends whatever university, whether it's in California or outside of California, has a certain pride that feels like our school is that much more special than everybody else. And, you know, so there is a tendency when you realize the history of Cal Poly, and I've known a lot of the people you've known who are legends, you know, some of the people who survived the plane crash, you know, years and years ago. But in your opinion, Steve, what did people who went to Cal Poly, especially in the athletic program, what was one of the things they could carry away with them as they left the university and went on to different things?
I don't know how much that differs from any other school, but hopefully they learn how to work hard and think on their own and accomplish something. That's just a general overview. But the ones that I know that have been successful all have done that. Think beyond the box, you know, and think about how to do things. If you don't have a job now, you got to figure out a way to make money. You know, that's an important thing that I think you learn at a place like Cal Poly, because you know how to get your hands dirty doing something.
But one of the things I'm hoping I can capture on this program is the fact that, you know, oftentimes you have to make changes in your life. And to your point that you bring up, Steve, you know, you lose a job, well, you got to find another job, and, you know, you can't quit. And I think that's kind of what you're saying is the spirit that, you know, when people were down, they got up and they kept on moving forward with things. Steve, I think we covered a lot of ground. It was very, very educational, entertaining, and really appreciate you taking the time to explain it. So do you have any closing thoughts with that?
Yeah, it went better than I thought. I didn't know which direction to go, but, you know, once you start talking, you just keep yakking. I want you to know that I don't know about Vern, but I'm interrupting my nap time to be here.
Well, I asked about that, so don't pass out before I say goodbye. But I really appreciate you, Steve. The sentiments go with a lot of people I connect with. You're quite the legend. So keep on living large, keep on playing that ukulele, and I look forward to showing you what we're going to do here. Hey, I'd like to end my interview with a gift. Want to know 6 short and amazing secret tips from Steve Yoneda? These are the golden nuggets I don't want you to miss. Wise and funny tips like how defeat can be positively powerful, can pivot an athlete's life or yours right now. Get this PDF called The Secret Sauce of Steve Yoneda, How to Be a Successful Athletic Trainer, or just get your life together now. Click on the link below and I'll send it to you free right now. It's amazing stuff. Don't miss out. And by the way, if you enjoyed this interview, please subscribe below.